Okay, in this section we're going to be looking at, we're breaking down our web page. We've looked at the different navigation types. We've looked at the different sections and breaking down rows into smaller portions. We looked at using the font Awesome, but what we haven't talked about is changing up the fonts that we use. So when we start to look at different font types, what we've done so far is use basically sans serif or serif fonts, and usually just the standard ones. But what is possible is that it's possible to use fonts that are from a different source. So for instance, I use Google Fonts a lot. So I'm going to bring up my Google Fonts. I'm going to get rid of my font Awesome here, and I'm going to go to Google Fonts and Google Fonts. Now, what Google Fonts does is that it gives you the ability to search for stylistic fonts, fonts that meet certain criteria. So for instance, over here on depending on the web, depending on the current design of the page, you have the ability to say, I want to find serif fonts, I want to find sans serif fonts, I want to find display fonts, I want to find handwritten types of fonts, okay, I want monospace type of fonts, and or we could say stuff like what's trending, what's really popular in the, let's say, the sans serif, what's super popular right now, and the date they were added, or alphabetical, what's trending, okay. And here's some of the styles: Frasca, Robot Condensed. All right. Also, you can search. You can do a search. So let's say Star Wars. Let's see if there's a Star Wars font just to see what happens. Okay. It says no fonts found. Well, let's say something less. Let's say disco. Maybe there's a disco. Actually, let me. Here we go. So I've got all of my options checked so I don't limit myself, and see, I type in a descriptive term and I get these different types of fonts. Now, they're not all necessarily from, this says no matches in the open source catalog, so none of these are going to be something that we can use straight from Google Fonts. But if I click on the featured, or I can look down through, let's say we want to find a handwritten style, and I can just scroll through here, and let's just look one that looks something like maybe someone was writing their name, a handwritten one. This one looks good. So let's say I wanted to use this one here, called Coming Soon. So here's what it looks like, and let's say I want to select this. So I'm going to go up here to select this font, and really what I want is just to get the information. This is the link I want to use to put in my head, and when I use it, I want to use this font as my font family choice. So I'm going to, this is called Coming Soon. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to take this, let's say Control Copy. And this is where we're working. I'm going to be working up in the head region, so my head region is going to be up here. Here's my Font Awesome section. So I put in this link right here. Okay. Now, when I want to use it, I have to make a style. So I'm going to put in a style, or I can add this to my CSS. Okay. And I need to make a style, and I'm going to call this John Font. Okay. And John Font is going to contain this information. So let's look. So I'm going to choose, I'm linking it up into my head region, and then I'm going to say, I've given it a name. Mine's going to say John Font. And so the font family is going to be what I put here. Let me go here, right here. So this is going to be the font family. Control copy. So I've got a style, John's font. Right, this is just like we've defined a class. So I've got John font. I could call it John's font. Alright, and so I've got coming soon, and I've linked to it right here. So this is coming soon is John's font. So I've got my name, I've got my containing information. Now when I want to use it, I can use it just like it was a class. And so what I want to do is make sure that I've got it up there. So let's see if we can make this work here. So I'm going to go back to my page. I pulled it in from my style sheet. I've given it this information. So if I want to go up to John, and let's say I want to define one of these sections, I'll put it in his, like he's written his name. So I'm going to go down to John's section, and wherever John's section is, here. And this is where I want to put in the class equals. This is where I'll put in my John's font, John font. And that's my class. That's what I called it. And I'm going to say run. And so what I want to do is I want to make sure I've got everything spelled correctly. So I'm going to look, I have John's font. The best thing to do is just to go up and to take this and control copy and go down to John's font and make sure you have it exactly right and hit run. There it is. Now it's using John's font here. Okay. Now let's do another one, another example. So, okay, I've got that. I'm going to go back. Let's do a different one. Let's do something a little more stylish. So I'm going to go up to not handwritten, but something sans serif, and something a little bit more. Let's just see if maybe there is a Beatles font, just to see what happens. Nope, no fonts. Delete. I kind of like to just look and see what's featured. So here's 2016 fonts and 5 fresh headlines. Let's see what they look like. I'm going to click on those. So here are some that are supposed to be fresh. Let's see what they look like. Or if you happen to know something, so I happen to have a font that I like, and I'm going to put in monotone. Okay, so I'm going to search for monotone, and it looks like this. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to go down here, and so monotone is the one that I want. So I can actually, since this has more than one in it, this one line of code will actually bring in coming soon and monotone. So I'm going to copy that, go back to my head region, and where I had this coming soon, I can replace it so it pulls in both monotone. Now I have my styles. I'm going to put in a new one for Paul. Paul's font. Okay, and this is where I want to put in Paul's font family, and it's going to be this one. Control copy, go back, paste it in, And now I'm going to say Paul's font. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this, Control Copy. Go down to Paul's headline here. And it's going to say, here's Ringo, here's Paul. So inside of this, I'm going to say class equals Paul's font. And we'll run it and see if we get a change. There we go. And it doesn't look too good small, but when it gets bigger, it looks better. Paul. Alright, and I could just keep doing that to get the text that I want. If I wanted to change this down here, I would just do the same thing. I could take this, oh sorry, not this, but this one, Control Copy. I could put it in here and run it, and it's going to change that font. This would probably look terrible if I put it down there. But anyway, you can see you've got the way that you can then apply a different font altogether. So if we wanted to come up with a really nice heading here, a nice big title, we could go back here and find a nice big title. Let's go back to the featured. Let's see what these say. Headline worthy serifs. Let's see what we've got. Laura Bold, bitter, Q-div. Let's see if one of these catches our eye. That might look good for this band. Let's go back to the discos. Since they weren't disco, but let's see what we get here. Let's say we like that. Let's see. Oh, these didn't come up. So these are families that don't belong in the Google fonts. Let's go back and look at some of these other ones really quick again. I like Pacifico. It's kind of fun, but it might not look very good as a headline. No, I'm not seeing anything that really looks good. But when I do, take a little while to find the right one. But as I do, I would do it just the same. I would start to kind of choose the personality, or the font that had the best personality, and I would set it up so that I pulled in all the different ones that I needed here, and then assign them down here. Now in the next video we're going to look at how we do this by just putting these things onto our CSS sheet, our own style sheet, so that we don't have all this stuff embedded into our page. We can have it on a separate style sheet, so we can change things that cover. It's a lot easier to make changes to lots of pages at once instead of having to go into each page and change them all.